So my name is Sam Chasen. I am originally from Mount Kisco, New York. Currently live in Austin, Texas. I'm 25 years old. I'm part of the Wake Forest COVID class of 2020. I was a BEM major, entrepreneurship minor. I like to say that I've moved 19,500 boxes to date. That's just representative of even up until a couple months ago, Matt and I still were going to campuses, not as many, but still out there moving the boxes, driving the trucks, just doing whatever needed to get done to finish the job. In between Matt and I'm definitely it's just crazy enough to work kind of business idea person. I have plenty of businesses that unfortunately have failed, but Storage Scholars has proven to be tried and true. So.
All right, and my name is Matt Gromberg. I'm originally from Boxford, Massachusetts. I'm now lucky enough to live in Austin. If any of you guys are thinking about new cities, it's one of the best in the United States for a 20-something-year-old. I'm 24 years old. I graduated in the class of 2020. Speaking of the corruption, I did graduate still with a degree in biology, but I did that so that I can finish a semester early and play catch up and run this business quicker. I've broken my back in 2 different places moving boxes for this business. It's a good reminder to squat and not just bend over. And I always am the executor when it comes to Sam and I's relationship. So Sam comes up with like 30 ideas a day, and most of them are garbage. So my job is to make sure that we hone it in and pick the one diamond in the rough and go with that. And so I always like to joke, if we didn't have Sam, there's no way we would have a business. If we didn't have me, we'd either be bankrupt or in jail. So it's a good dynamic. So why should you listen to anything we have to say today? Last year, we did 2 million in sales. This year, we are on track to break 5 million. So in terms of market expansion, we went from 23 campuses this year, and we are now scaling all the way up to 60. We took an investment from Mark Cuban. If any of you guys saw the Shark Tank episode, we got a $2.5 million valuation. In terms of employees, we have 11 full-time employees. We have 150 part-timers that work between 10 and 15 hours a week. These are all students on different campuses. We have 500 movers that flex up seasonally. We've paid $1 million to students, which is a huge point of pride for us. We did this to pay our way through school, and we keep employing students to this day. And in terms of profit, we've been profitable since day one. A lot of people have this raise and burn strategy in entrepreneurship now that it's all about growth and sales and big revenue numbers. But we've had between an 11 and a 24% net margin since the inception of this business. For all you business junkies out there, that's the very bottom line dollar that you take home. And we did that while paying ourselves a real salary. It's a blessing that Sam and I got to graduate and actually work on this full time and pay ourselves comparably to our peers. And so we went from taking an $80,000 salary last year to 120 this year. So what do we do? So Storage Scholars is a moving and storage solution for students. Many of you have probably seen us on campus. We provide students with boxes, tape, and packing supplies right at their door. We have them pack it up, lock it in their room, and go home. We partner with their university so that at the end of the year, they can unlock all the rooms, we can move it all into storage for the summer, and then in August, we pre-deliver it so it's ready in their new room. We also just launched this last August our Ship to School service. So we ship students an empty bundle of 5 boxes. Think an incoming freshman coming to the very first time to school. And then they'll get that 5-box bundle. They'll get FedEx prepaid return labels. And then on that label, they can stick it on. FedEx will pick it back up. We'll receive it, store, and then deliver it so it's ready and waiting in their room. And everybody loves online shopping nowadays. So we built a feature where students can actually just shop at their favorite retailer, paste the tracking number in the website, and then our system will integrate with all the shipping carriers in the United States. So you paste the tracking number, we will get the weight, the arrival date, the dimensions, and again, we can itemize it so it'll come into your room ready and waiting for you before you even arrive.
It's kind of where did this all begin? So I was definitely kind of an entrepreneur from birth. Whether it was just like one of you all having a lemonade stand, I had an artisan lemonade stand at age 6. I was selling candy out of my locker at 9, a landscaping business at 11. And then I had these kind of wide-scale, citywide garage sales where I'd wake up at 4 in the morning, put out different signs. I'd have Facebook market ads, Craigslist ads, ads in the local newspaper, and sell thousands of items from a 50-cent t-shirt all the way up to a $15,000 BMW M3. Then when I got to college, it was, hey, like I want to go to Wake Forest. It's $70,000, now $80,000 a year, which is ridiculous, but definitely worth it. And so you know what? I'm not looking at this as, hey, let's take out loans for the next 10 years. Hey, it's $70,000 a year. Here's how much I've saved. How much do I have to make each year to kind of leave college without debt? So that's when Storage Scholars began. So kind of where did it all start? So I had 2 international homemates, one from China, one from Ethiopia. That's my good buddy, Wubetu. He was from Ethiopia. My other friend, Tiambo, was from China. And they would stereotypically bring these 2 big suitcases overseas. Then they'd buy the rest of their belongings here in the US, and they kind of looked at me as like they're like resident American friend. They're like, Sam, what do we do with our mattress topper at the end of the year? Like, I'm not going to ship it back to China. So, okay, like clearly there's a need for a service here, right? So Wubetu and I went to the library. We got a ream of flyers. I made a shitty advertisement on Canva. And we went door to door selling the service because I figured, hey, that's where the customers are going to be. The interactions went something like this. I would go, Sam Chasen with Wake Storage. Oh, you're having sex. I will come back. Okay. And I'll go, Sam Chasen, Wake Storage. You're taking a bong rip. Okay, I'll be back. All right. Or Sam Chasen, Wake Storage. Are you the kid from my cow class? Bro, leave. I'm sleeping. I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like, but then the next door you go, and then a couple more afterwards, like, Sam Chasen, Wake Storage. And they go, what's that? Oh, it's a place where we can pick up your belongings, store it for the summer, bring it back. Like, what do you think? So through that process, learned a ton, and basically ended up that year serving 64 customers, made $18,000 in revenue, and that's how Storage Scholars was born, right? And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners and stuff, it's, hey, like this is so complicated, how do I start, right? And one step at a time, right? So this was a website, I was lucky enough, I used my connection, who is my brother, who was a web developer, so he helped make our first website on Squarespace. And then when we needed a place to, for example, like how to move the boxes. I had a truck at home from high school, my parents drove it up for me. Or if we needed to rent a bigger box truck, at the time I was 18, you needed to be 21 to rent a box truck from Penske at Home Depot. So I would ask my RA, hey, can you drive there, put down your license, I'll take the car, I promise I won't crash it. And the same sense with boxes, right? We needed to ship in like a couple thousand boxes. And I go, LB, who was my RA, like, is it cool if I ship some boxes to South Hall? Yeah, man, like, why not? 1834 Wake Forest Road, like, boop, like, show up. And they showed up, and I had like 800 boxes and huge things of bubble wrap, like the green bubble wrap you're seeing that picture, just in the hallway in South Hall for like 2 weeks. And when we needed storage, it's like, all right, well, where do I get storage? You need a big warehouse? No. So there was CubeSmart self-storage down the street, 1 month free. So we paid for 3 months of storage for 4 months, and that's where we stored the stuff. And who was gonna move? Well, myself, my friends, and we had some friends do it, and kind of just made it happen, right? So in the beginning, it's just keeping it simple and going from there. And like any arrogant 18-year-old, after I had some money in my pocket, like I said, $18,000, came home that summer and bought my dream car, a 1995 BMW supercharged M3. I also bought a Yamaha YZF 450. Fired up, they matched too, it was badass. Kid and driving at the same time, but I definitely looked at them a lot. But you know, given the mindset that I had and like Matt has as well, I bought them on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, rode them for 3 years. They were both death traps. I broke my ankle on one of them, but then sold them afterwards for like a 50% profit. So if you're gonna buy dumb things, like at least buy it used. So. And then, like I talked about, so actually I didn't talk about this. So Wubetu and I, we decided in our first year that it just made more sense for us to kind of go separate ways and do our own different business ventures. And we ended up actually joining Startup Lab together a year later with different ventures. So my sophomore year, go in, and over the summer I rebranded. So instead of being Wake Storage, it was Storage Scholars. It's for a very lucky decision, right, to be honest with you. Because I got an email, I got a cease and assist my first week of sophomore year. So cease and assist, for those of you all don't know, is when you steal someone's logo, or you steal their IP, or you steal Wake Forest's old gold and black and call it Wake Storage. So like, my mind was like, maybe kids will think like we're affiliated with Wake Forest, and that was true. So like, it definitely worked. So I'm in there with the head of Res Life, the head of procurement, and the head of legal. And these are people that I'd been calling for months, really, emailing, and no one wanted to talk to me. Now I'm sitting down there, they're like, this is great, this is cute, you gotta shut it down. So they Google Wake Storage and it reroutes you to Storage Scholars. And they're like, what's this? I'm like, well, this is exactly what it is. And I went through my whole pitch that I was not able to give them. I was an RA at the time, so I could speak to like the move in and move out experience. I talked about the customers we served, the great interactions we had, kind of like a ask for forgiveness before permission type situation. So we was able to service and then kind of talk to them on how it went. And being a Wake Forest student, I think being an RA and kind of being able to talk to the relationship with Res Life, they gave me a chance, right? And I think a testament to that was when I had an opportunity to speak to someone face to face, especially in a virtual world like this, take advantage of it, because it's kind of hard to deny one of these. So yeah, the following year, so now once again sophomore, still had the M3. I remember it was, you try a bunch of things that do or do not work. It was April 19th, my friend who ran the Syracuse branch looked at me and kind of snickered on the phone. He goes, tomorrow's 420, like we should run a paid ad. Didn't go well.
He thought he was clever for this too.
But then, once again too, sophomore year, 2 years in, you're still kind of starting from ground zero with different aspects of your business. So for this particular example, we needed insurance, commercial liability insurance, like cargo insurance for trucks. And the conversations on the phone went something like this. Bring! And they go, okay, I'm like, hey, I'm Sam. They go, okay, so how long have you been in business? Less than a year? Because it was a new company now too. You have $18,000 in sales. You have no physical assets, no trucks. You have no full-time employees. You have no business credit. And you want $2 million in liability insurance? They'd hang up. Right? I did that over 100 times. Like, one's got to work, right? We need the insurance. Like, someone's got to take my call. And actually, like my friend at the time and one of our business partners, Gordo, he's like, yo, why don't we go hit up State Farm down the street? So Nick Chatima, State Farm Insurance on University Parkway, we showed up and told him our story. And he's like, you know what? We're going to make it work. And I had insurance in like 30 minutes after that. So once again, if you have the opportunity, go speak in person, go make a face-to-face interaction because it works. So my favorite experience, and I think my most impactful experience in the Center for Entrepreneurship at Wake Forest was, I'm gonna get goosebumps telling this story, but sophomore year in 205 at the time is what it was called. Shoulders rolled forward, walk to the front of the room at the end of the class, and I go to Greg. I was like, Greg, tired of being the storage kid. Like, I went door to door. Like, people knew me as the storage kid on campus. Like, it sucked. And I'm like, all these kids are coming up with these cool ideas, these apps, like, they sound so flashy, tech companies. I'm like, I don't want to be the storage kid. And he looks at me and goes, you're an idiot, right? he's like, storage scholars in this business is just a means to an opportunity and a platform to grow a business, right? And in a modern example for us right now, like Mark Cuban owns the Mavs. He doesn't play basketball, right? Like we own storage scholars. We're no longer moving boxes. So kind of taking that fresh perspective forward, continued on. So.
And so just to share a couple tidbits about how wild a time this was. So back in 2018, it was like the Wild West of storage on campus for whatever reason. We had about 7 competitors all bidding for the exact same students to use it. There was Deacon Storage and college truckers and college boxes and dorm room movers. And there was like everybody in the world wanted Wake Forest for whatever reason. And so we spent a lot of time blaming our competitors for our lack of total success in dominating the market. And that's a very like young entrepreneurial trait, right? We look at our competitors and say, they're the problem. It's not us. It's that they're doing all these things. And so we really got caught up in it. They had some days during our move out, they knew that we were short-staffed because Sam was a cheapskate and he was paying $10 an hour and they were paying $12. So they would have kids come onto our sign-up sheet for labor. They'd sign up and then they would show up the next morning in a Deacon Storage shirt, getting paid time and a half on the Deacon Storage truck, double bird to us, we got you. So Sam, of course, retaliated like a very young entrepreneur, started sending out marketing saying Deacon Storage sucks. Really not very effective. If you have to talk down at someone, it's probably not because you're better. So we learned a lot during this time. It was a very youthful, fun time in the business. And so then here's the part where I kind of came in. I'm a year younger than Sam. I was a freshman. I was looking up to him as this crazy, successful sophomore. For whatever reason, a lot of people didn't see what I was seeing. A lot of people were making fun of it. A lot of people saw it as the youthful business that it was, but I was seeing a lot of opportunity, right? So I committed the second I finished pledging that year to start tabling to all my friends. I'm from Boston. I immediately was like, hey, like I'll start making group chats with all my Boston friends. I'll call all the parents. I'll start being your sales rep. The next thing you know, I committed to being his #1 mover. Again, short-staffed. So that year we moved 163 total student belongings with me, Sam, a kid named Gordo, legend, and then Thomas Cole, who is a 6'4", 250 football player, legend. He could move more than any of us combined. So us 4 basically did this entire move out ourselves, and we were all doing it because we were just more committed to Sam as a leader than anything else. Our first facility was 45 minutes away. Huge mistake, because we would finish moving. We'd go 8 a.m. till about 8:30 p.m. on our bad days, and then we'd have to eat Chipotle, and then we'd have to drive 45 minutes, and we'd have to unload all the things that we just loaded for the first 12 hours of the day. So we were slamming coffees, we were staying up all night, and on the 9th day of moving, I'm gonna out myself a little bit here, but I woke up and I put my feet on the ground and I cried. A complete bitch moment. I was like, I can't do this, like I can't freaking do it. Like, you have 2 movers and like another 25 moves. So I swallowed 4 Advil and walked out the door. And that's how we were able to get through it. And that is how I was able to prove myself to Sam. And lucky for me, he left to go to New Zealand a couple months later in July, while everybody in the United States had their stuff in storage. So there was one kid he could trust to go run the move-in while he was gone, and that was me. So I got pretty lucky. He was 22 hours away, and I said, I'll step up, I'll run the business while you're gone, and I'll help do the deliveries. And math. So because I was working that $10 an hour, and I worked 4 years with no contract and a whole lot of trust in Sam, I ended up with 30% of the company, and that is pretty abnormal, and it's a big testament to the character and the relationship that we built. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. So fast forward to 2019. This was my sophomore summer, his junior year summer. He'd come back, everything was running smooth. And as you can see, this was kind of our summer job. All the vibes were good, 92 degrees. Still doing the work. If you look here, Sam is dressed head to toe in garb because he was the exterminator that day. His job was to spray the hornet's nest at the facility and make sure all of our workers didn't get clipped or stung. And this was really the biggest turning point for me, right? So summer sessions and poker lessons, this is kind of what we like to say. So I was doing my genetics research, and this is where the corruption got really bad. I was working 40 hours a week because, again, I really wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I was dead set on it. So I said, okay, I'll do this genetics lab. And what I was assigned to do was wake up at 6:45 every day, make it to the lab on time, and kill about 1,000 fruit flies every day so I could breed them and create new genetic variants. It was very miserable. I hated it, and I spent most of my days actually whipping out my laptop and working on storage collars, which is when it started to click for me that I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I did not want to wait another 9 years to be a doctor. The problem is, when I told Sam that, he was not ready for a business partner. I said, hey, I'm committed, I'll switch my degree, and I want to be done 6 months early and meet you in the workforce and run this business, but I wanted to be a business partner. Then I made probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and it may seem small stakes, but when you actually think about the context, it was really bad. So again, summer sessions, if any of you guys have ever done them at Wake, you meet a bunch of new people, you shoot the shit. We were doing a lot of poker games, right? So we were running $5, $10 poker games, and I, as a kid, used to be into magic tricks. I could do a bunch of sleight of hand things. So I started figuring out that I could cheat my way through poker very easily. Started stacking the deck, and then suddenly I was getting straight after flush after royal flush, winning the house every single night, until one of the interns that we'd flown up to film for us caught me. He was 17 and looking at me, and he was saying, hey, that's messed up. He's not a good character person. He has bad morals. And so Sam the next morning sat me down, and he's like, I don't care what the stakes are. If I can't even trust you to cheat people in poker, $5, $10 hands, how am I supposed to trust you with my business? So that was a really tough time for us. And it's amazing that he even gave me a chance to come back and prove myself, because then I got on a flight to Denmark and I studied abroad. So there's more to the story, but that was a big foundational moment for both of us and a big learning lesson. Oh, and just for fun, more dumb toys. I really wanted to be like Sam, so I saw that he had a white Beamer, so I bought a black one. Learned how to drive stick that summer. It was a cheap $6,000 car, and we burned it to the ground. It was awesome.
Still have that Honda Ruckus in Austin, Texas. Scooter gang is the biggest hack at all time. But yeah, so now I'm a junior, Matt's a sophomore, and we think, wow, storage collars is great business, but it's seasonal. How do we supplement the seasonality and make more money throughout the semester? So we started essentially Wake Storage. Sorry, not Wake Storage. Wake Wash. But in the city of Greensboro. We joined Startup Lab, we got a couple $1,000s in funding, and for 9 months, we woke up on Saturday mornings and bags over our shoulders and literally sold to people in the streets of Greensboro, North Carolina. And after 9 months, it was April, and we said, wow, we've made hundreds of dollars. And we probably should think about expanding storage college, right? So what about High Point? What about Elon? They're like 2 minutes away. Yeah, then we realized, you know what? First lesson, shiny object syndrome. That's something entrepreneurs have all the time. You think it's more exciting to do something new, whatever. Like, we shut down the business. I'm sorry, but we focused back on storage college again and expanded to 2 new schools. Then 2020 hit, right? So I graduated my senior year, this was spring of 2020, and we were on spring break. I remember I'm on the beach, I get a call, it's like, news is going crazy, like, sweet, maybe I got a couple extra days in Florida. And then Matt calls me, like he tends to do a couple times a day, and he's like, yeah, like thousands of kids' stuff are locked in their room. What are we gonna do? I'm like, shit, you're so right. Okay. So got on my computer, we started giving out proposals to schools. And I remember the first proposal, because this was the coronavirus, like no one knew what this was $1,950 per student to pack them up in hazmat suits, body cams, and we were gonna go in and FaceTime families across the country, pack up their stuff, ship things out, store things. And schools were like, no. But we basically then flew back, took red-eye flights back, moved out a couple schools that wanted us, and then another kind of lesson of kind of in-person interaction. So there was kind of a lull. We moved out a couple schools, but then the rest of the world was like, we're just gonna wait it out. We're just gonna see what happens, and maybe Corona will end, maybe kids can come back. It's gonna be too expensive to solve this problem prematurely. So we just got in our convertible, like we tend to do in North Carolina, super fun, and just started driving south. And we went to some schools like Wofford. We literally knocked on the doors of the administration, and they're like, oh my God, like, thank you so much. Who were you? Who are you? Please, like, you're like knight in shining armor. This is amazing. Here are the keys to our school. Come move us out. And then some schools like Furman, we had the same interaction. We knocked on their door, and they go, who are you? This is a pandemic. How did you get on campus? Like, get the fuck out. And they still hate us. But at the end of the day, without those personal interactions, we ended up building a couple great partnerships. And it's a volume game, right? We don't need every school in the country.
And even though they still hate us, we're still in business.
So now 2020, right? I'm 4 years in. And once again, like, they're still gonna go down to ground zero. You're still gonna do things from the beginning. You still gotta stay gritty. So I remember we had this warehouse in Thomasville. It was 30,000 square feet. You guys are smiling over here, but it's like this brilliant idea. We can have a 30,000 square foot warehouse for Wake Forest, for Elon, for High Point, central location, but it was 40 minutes away. And so we decided to leave, but we'd spent $10,000 putting in a security system to monitor the whole place, keep your belongings safe, right? And I'm like, I'm not leaving that up there. So went to Home Depot, rented a 20-foot ladder, got up on the ladder, started unscrewing the screws, throwing them down. Like, all right, we have 15 minutes before it gets dark. We have 5 more cameras to do. Let's speed it up, right? And then I fell and shattered my wrist, broke like 3 toes, and took all my final exams senior year with a scribe, and did the entire pandemic move out with like a cast on my dominant hand. So still got to get gritty, right?
I take partial responsibility because I wanted to break the record for how quick we could throw down a camera with just the 2 of us. No. So other failed ideas. By the time I was a junior, I entered Startup Lab again, or in this case, Deacon Springboard. And I decided that I was going to test my entrepreneurial skill set because thought I had the Midas touch, thought I was all that in a bag of chips. And so I decided I was gonna build this athletic kit. I was gonna sell it through Facebook ads because that's easy, right? And I was gonna build a whole new product. And part of this was just to make sure that Sam knew that I had the balls to do something on my own. And eventually it ended up working. Refresh Athletics, terrible kibosh. We never sold anything really. But it really did prove to Sam that maybe there was something there because the idea of losing me might have been a little bit impactful. So then we fast forward to 2021. So 2021, I was both a hybrid student and I was a full-time employee of Storage Scholars. I pretty much worked myself into ground first semester. I was taking 19.5 credit hours and working 40 hours a week. I think I lost about 25 pounds. I looked sickly, but I got it done. And then I was able to graduate December 2020. And so luckily by the end of that season, right, I had functionally caught up to Sam. I worked my 4th year in the business. And then after that move out, after we crushed it, I think we did almost $1 million in sales. He said, you know what, we've gone through the pandemic together. We've gone through all of this together. It's ready. It's time for you to sign your equity agreement. And that's a shirt from me at a white lie party saying, I'm okay with having equity in storage cars. So then entered the phase of Winston fifth years. So this was actually the second worst time we ever had. Not because Winston's bad, but because of what we thought, again, if you haven't noticed it yet, we get shiny object syndrome when we start new businesses. So this one was one of our worst.
Yeah, so as if we hadn't learned before, we started a new one, like Matt said. So this one I thought it had like real merit to it, right? So during the pandemic, we got pretty much like the shitty parts of the jobs where we'd go to universities, we would do the FaceTime packing appointments individually. We'd use our technology to schedule all those things out. We'd essentially like an hourly for that. And then these local moving companies who had been in business 20, 30 years would just go in and like mass move out all the students, and they'd get paid probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. So you know what, like we already have these relationships with the universities. We already have a bunch of kids that want to work, they want to continue to work over the summer. Why don't we start a local moving company in Winston-Salem? And another terrible idea, right? I mean, once again, we did it for 9 months. We actually ended up okay financially, but you're starting a brand new business all over again, right? So we decided to, once again, shut that down and move to now Austin, Texas, right? So moved to Austin on a whim. A lot of people ask, you know, how Austin, Texas? Why Austin, Texas? I think most importantly, a lot of people will say college is the best 4 years of your life, because once you graduate, that's when life starts, that's when the grind starts, and like you might as well have all your fun in college. I mean, that may be true, but Matt and I took a leap of faith on ourselves, spent 4 years building this business, and then when we graduated, the conversations that we could have with administration, with prospective employees, with different vendors was like, hey, we've been in business for 4 years, right? So when we got to Austin, we were really able to like open it up, rip it in Austin. And truthfully, like these are like 15 of our actual like closest friends. So I've had more fun, Matt as well, in our 20s than we ever had in college. So you can do both. Shark Tank. People want to know about that, right? So we actually applied twice. So the first time we applied was my senior year. I remember walking out of a quant class in BM, getting a call from this woman, Ashley. She's like, hey, like, this is the best business idea we've heard in 2020. And with that one call, I was fired up. We weren't supposed to tell anyone, and of course, people found out. I remember going to LR and people like dapping us up, like, yo, like,
Congrats,
Shark
bro.
Tank, sick, dude.
That's
and,
lit.
Like, and in reality, having now gone through the whole process 2 years later, we were nowhere near actually getting on the show. It was just like the first like initial screening round. But then 2 years later, on a whim, I was feeling very nostalgic at my family home, sitting at the dining room table around like winter break. We still talk in academic like calendar years, but applied again. And then in February, got the call like, hey, like we want you to come apply again, and it became a part-time job for about 9 months.
So this is us, start to finish, pitching everything about our business, why we should do it. And we had 20 pages of written applications for each of us personally. We had another 40 pages for the business. So we decided that we learned our lesson, right? So this time we were just going to do what we call a lock-in. So we basically locked ourselves in our apartment and did that the entire weekend until we got it done. Because at that point, the business was so much bigger, we didn't even have the luxury of taking time off to go and do this. Because of course, they happened to give us that call in February, which is like ramping up for our busiest time of the year. Then from there, it ended up being weekly homework assignments, right? So you literally have to build your set, you have to order all the props, you have to do everything on a week-to-week basis. And we knew that this was gonna basically become a part-time job for us, but we saw that the value of the show would credential us to a whole new level, and we still thought it was worth it and went forward. So luckily, we actually did make it on air. And just to talk about by the numbers, we are really, really lucky. About 40,000 people apply to the show a year. About 1,000, I believe, submit the video application and the writing sample. 200 or so get an opportunity to be offered to fly out to LA. And then of those people, I think it's 80 to 100 will actually get aired. So we were one of the few lucky 80 to 100 companies that got aired. So we decided to celebrate like rock stars. We threw a huge watch party in Austin on my birthday, October 14th. That's when it aired. It was surreal. We went out to concerts afterwards, partied all night, had the time of our lives, got my family out there. This is a little video of us celebrating as if we didn't know what had already happened. Yeah, and 2023, moon. That's the plan.
So one of the kind of key takeaway points we can talk about is like when to start a business and why to start a business. So a lot of times people in college will ask like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do this blowout company where we show up in a truck and we can show it outside the dorms. We can paint nails, do makeup before formals, right? And they're like, but I don't know when to start it. It's college. Like, I don't have time. And you know what? While you're in college, you have access to a tremendous amount of free resources, whether it be Startup Lab, Deacon Springboard, or at different universities. Money, access to capital, access to like mentorship, access to like 500 professors on campus that are all like ex-business people or different people in the business world. And they can help you for free, and they want to help you for free. And in that same sense, actually go in and talk to them, right? Don't just send them an email and hope they respond. Go physically talk to them. Then there's the .edu email, which I call lethal, right? When you are sending an email as a student, you have zero like threatening nature to a prospective business person. I told this to somebody and they go, wow, that's incredible. That's actually so true. He was a senior at UT, and he sent out an email to 20 of the biggest like big wigs in commercial real estate. 18 of them responded within 3 days. 5 of them were on his advisory board because he was like, I'm a UT student. This is a cool school project. Like, what do you think? But if he had done that 2 years from now, it's like, hey, I run this commercial real estate company. Can you give me the insights to all your business? They'd be like, no, like I'm not going to respond to that. So, and you know what? Worst case scenario, if everything fails per se, like your whole business flops in college, you still have a meal plan, you still have a roof over your head. You're not paying medical bills for like your family or whatever. It's just see college as an entrepreneurial playground to just like mess around, screw up, make some money, lose some money. Like who cares, you know? So if you take nothing away from this presentation, take these 5 points. So number 1 is just start, right? It's gonna suck. You'll probably get made fun of. You'll likely piss people off, kind of ask for forgiveness before permission. But you must be bad to get good, right? Like your first product, if you're not embarrassed by it, you've probably released it too late, right? Just go for it, right? Take that first step. There's too many people, especially people in this room, and I was one of them too. You're getting an elite education and you're thinking, wow, steps B, C, D, and E, like a job or a business, those are things that I want to do, but you're kind of afraid to take step A. Do the gritty work. Go knock on a door. Go call the first customer. Right? Just go for it. Number 2. So don't be afraid to do something that already exists. Go faster, execute better, thrive in markets that are dominated by outdated systems, right? So not everything needs to be a blue ocean. Like you don't have to be innovative, right? Moving has been around for hundreds of years, and you know, not everybody believed that what we were doing was good. We had 10 competitors my freshman year, but we took our mindset of, hey, like we are Wake Forest students. Like I was gonna be a doctor. He's like, I'm a beast. Like we can go out there. And like thinking about who runs your average moving company, and they're still running with like fax machines rather than paper and pencil highlighters. We saw this happen in action on campus with the other moving companies that were getting paid like millions of dollars to do this job. So that's number 2. And the number 3 is the best time to start a business is now, in college, while the stakes are low, where mistakes can be made into learning lessons, not life-altering dumpster fires, right? Like whatever happens in college kind of stays in college, like Vegas. Just go for it, right? Nobody cares. Worst case scenario, right? This all fails, whatever. You go to apply for your job, you still have your Wake Forest degree. And now when you're talking, you've gotten past the application phase, you're talking to your recruiter, you're on the call. It's not like, hey, I got A's. That's phenomenal. Hey, I had this internship. That's phenomenal, right? That's amazing. Those are like table stakes though to get into that like interview round. But now you can say, hey, I started to work for this company. Here's the actual tangible things that I did in this company, and here's the value I provided. And that's a story that will actually more than likely help you get that job.
And to piggyback on that, clearly I had some big failures even in between our relationship, and a lot of those failures do not follow you. Everybody's obsessed with themselves. Everybody loves to think about all their own actions. People very seldom remember anything bad that you truly did. Number 4, make promises and keep promises, and mostly to yourself. So give strict deadlines for yourself, meet those deadlines. I'm a big believer in Parkinson's law. If you give yourself 2 days to do something, you'll take 2 days. If you give yourself 10, you'll take all 10. But the most important trust that you can earn is your own. And what I mean by that is if you continuously are somebody who says you're going to do things and then you don't follow through on it, you're somebody who likes to talk about the goals they set and you never actually take any action on them. You like to talk to your friends about the one morning you woke up early, even though you know you slept in the last 6 days. It's like these are things that break your own belief in yourself. And that creates true insecurity, right? So the real security comes from having a stack of evidence saying, I do the things that I say I'm going to do, truly. And consistency wins 100% of the time. Consistency and discipline over motivation any day of the week. And what I always say, if anybody asks me about starting their business, I think to myself, you're a smart person, especially in this room. How smart are you guys, right? It took a lot to get into this position, to be at Wake Forest, being an elite student. If you put your mind to anything for 5 years, right, 40 to 60 hours a week, it would literally be unreasonable for you to be bad at it, right? It would be unreasonable for you to suck, right? So if you just keep doing something, you could sign a contract to basically say, I might suck for a year, I might suck for 2, but there will be an outsized return at the end. It's almost guaranteed with the level of intelligence in this room. And that's all we got. Well done. So really quick,
If everyone can whip out your phones, shameless plug.
stay in touch with us.
Follow us on Instagram.
Give it a scan.
We're hiring not only at Wake
I
Forest.
like that. Nice, I like that.
But we are actually hiring at over 60 actually 80 colleges in the US. So genuinely, please share this link. There's a couple on there for potentially any other friends you might have on different campuses that are looking for an employment. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook. Like, you know what? If we can get 100 more followers today, that's a win in my book. So you can unfollow us afterwards. I don't really care.
We're just big clout chasers if you haven't figured it out. Cool. Q&A?
Any advice for how to scale your business at multiple locations at one time? I feel like that's kind of a big feat.
Sure. I mean, I think, yeah, a small anecdote. I mean, I think it goes back to Sam just saying you have to just do it to start. And so for us, that came in the form of asking friends to be our very first managers. So he had a friend at Syracuse and then a friend at the University of Miami, which were his 2 first kind of employee expansions. That is often what you have to do at the beginning, but if there's any way you can avoid it, I would strongly recommend it and find a way to be able to come up with the salary, save up, and be able to pay somebody you don't know. Because with the friends and the commission structure, there's a lot of blurred lines, right? So like a lot of the time it was like, come on, man, like, you know, like I was at the same party, like I had to go to that last night, right? And you have like the friendship bleeding into the business. So I would say it's probably worth it to wait and try and get your first employee at a price that you can afford when you have enough run rate. I don't know if that answers it more specifically, but if you give an example, we can try and dig deeper. Cool.
Talk more about the interactions and conversations with the universities that you guys partner with.
Yeah. So like I said, we kind of got our first big win more organically because I was a Wake Forest student. So similar to what Matt just said, it's like if your mother or father or friend or brother has a connection, like use it, right? And our connection was first being a Wake Forest student. And before that, we tried to reach out to some other schools and they said no, right? But once we had Wake Forest, that first domino kind of fell. Then we could go to schools we went to Miami, they said no. We went to Syracuse, they said no. But then we went to Elon and High Point. We said, hey, like 40 minutes down the road, like Wake Forest works with us. Oftentimes there's actually a lot of people that work in the departments that transfer to different schools. So like the head of Res Lab at High Point used to work at Wake Forest, and I used to work with her. So kind of growing more regionally became powerful for us because there's kind of just some interdependency amongst the different campuses and people not to know each other. So I'd say start in your backyard because that's where you know it best and kind of grow from there.
Matt, you mentioned a couple times that you admire Sam's leadership.
For sure.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that. So what is it about Sam? Is it characteristics or
Sure.
personality or?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, truly dialing it back from a young age, like he's a very servant leader. So what it looked like in year 1 is he was the guy who's sweating the hardest, moving the fastest, sprinting the boxes to show everybody else that to be on his level of worker, you had to put in that type of effort, right? And he was the last one to clock out, first one there. He did all the standard stuff that you'd expect out of a leader. But as time kind of went on, it was like a lot more, his tendency is not to be the most dominant voice in the room. He would rather let you bring out your best qualities and he'll sift through that and encourage the best in you. And so when it came to scaling, that was like a really big plus for us is like a lot of these student leaders at the Syracuses, the Miamis, the Elons, they look at him and they're like completely believing in everything he has to say about them because he makes that trust very communicative. Where I'm more directive, and I wish I had that ability with people. So I do a lot more of the operations and the things that don't need as much coaching. He's a better coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell y'all both have a lot of passion for the business and just like what you're doing in general. I'm curious, like, what fires y'all up the most about the whole venture and like just life in general?
For sure. We'll probably have different answers, but I'll let Sam go first.
I mean, so many things, right? Today, right, because the answer changes every single day. From today, probably up until like 2-3 months ago, there became a clear vision and path for this to be a global brand, like $100, $200, $300 million business in the next 5 years. So to have like that mindset is like, well, obviously you're gonna do that, right? I would say before that, it became more, we're kind of in the weeds and we start hiring these first employees, and you have a 35-year-old, right, who we're giving her health insurance and 401k, and she has a husband, and maybe they start having kids, and it's no longer about you, right? It's no longer about, we've paid our salaries, like that's a given, right? We're confident this is gonna be in business. We've made it through a pandemic, we've made it through college, we've made it through, we've survived longer than the average, marriage, right? So that's probably gonna be pretty good. So it's just all about truly, it's like, hey, I can go out there and truly create job opportunities in an environment like, it's happened organically, but it seems we have a pretty good culture. So the people that work for us love it. It's the best job they've ever had. So to kind of continue to have that resounding feedback, it fires me up and it fires us up just to continue to grow and give more opportunities to more people like that.
And for me, I think I think business and entrepreneurship is the most competitive sport on the planet, right? I love coming into work every day and feeling like everything I'm gonna do is super hard, right? And I love like running towards the hard. I like when Sam has something super hard and we have to like actually put our minds together to fix it. A lot of people at the top complain about how all their whole day is problems, but like I wouldn't want it any other way. Like I think that's the coolest thing ever is when you can like legitimately, and we're really lucky in our business that we get a full cycle to look at the problems and then spend 8 months fixing them, right? And so I just love that aspect of it. Super competitive, right? Like we still get fired up when our competitors get a little win over us and we keep going, oh, just wait 5 years. And like we put our timeline horizon longer and longer going, we just need to stay in the game, right? So I love the competitive nature of business.
Was there an aha moment where you kind of realized that you were going to take this job to more of a business after college, and kind of before that aha moment, kind of what helped you go keep that drive and loyalty to your business?
Yeah, so I'd personally never had a job. I mean, I've had jobs in my life, but like once we started Storage College, it's like, okay, if I can pay $70,000 education through, we won scholarships, I'd save money. I mean, there was other ways as well, but my parents paid for part of it too. I mean, transparently, right? But I'm like, if I can support that, then I can support a salary, right? And if we can pay Matt and we can pay the other employees, there was never really a doubt of like, is this something that could be feasible after college? But as it continued to grow, I mean, I think you gain more confidence in yourself to be able to provide value and create value. And it's always like, if this all fails, quote unquote, right, we could go out and get a job somewhere else. And when you kind of have that it's nothing lost, like nothing to lose mentality, you just assume everything's going to work out and you're going to find a solution to every problem. And I mean, yeah, it was kind of consistent throughout my 4 years.
And I think there's also a lot of like confidence in numbers, right? And so I think there was a point when we were at the tail end of school where there was enough profit there where we were like, we can take $40,000. And like once we saw that, it was like, okay, well that's very livable. We can do this another year, play the game one more time. And so knowing those numbers gave us all a lot of confidence.
To that point, actually, there was an exercise. We sat down in the downtown Wake Forest campus, and we were trying to create a salary actually for someone after college and be like, what's the least we can pay them? We're like, that's livable. And we were like, Netflix subscription, like presents for family, like flying home for vacation, food, rent, car payment. And it came down to like $39,948. So when we made $40,000 a year, you're like, all right, we can only go out for here. So it's definitely livable. Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about that transition from the employer-employee relationship into being business partners and having shared equity in the business. Was any of that hard or challenging, and how did the relationship change?
Yeah, so at least for, I think I can probably speak for both of us, that year, the 2021 year, when I was playing catch up, right, cramming in as many school hours as I could, trying to graduate on time, was probably the hardest year of our relationship we've ever had. Because in addition to shifting, right, I think at that point he had verbally said, like, I'm ready to be business partners, like, I'm ready to cut you in, right? It was post-pandemic that decision was made, but then there's a whole lot of shit that comes after that, right? So then there's all the operating agreement negotiations, there's all the actual equity component, there's so many different ways to give people equity. And so then, this is like my personal opinion, it's probably not well advised, but each of us getting personal lawyers was fucking terrible. I mean, it was like we were being coached on how to basically begin hating each other, right? Every day. Like, what if he does this in 5 years? Like, what if he becomes a drug addict? What if he dies, right? And it's like crazy shit you've never thought of, right? And so, yeah, I was like, this is awful. And I'm getting charged what per hour for you to tell me this, right? So I would say at one point, like, I was basically like at an anxious peak in my life. And I'm not a very anxious person. And I was like, Sam, like, I'm done with the lawyers. Like, I'm either in or I'm out, and we're doing this today, or I'm done, right? Because I'd been working for 4 years, and I think that was probably a pretty powerful moment for us. And we got it done. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess off that topic too. So, me owning 100% of the company for those 4 years, I think I was kind of always in a power position as a result of the way that I did lead, which I'm like, I know I'm good, right? So, Matt, from day one, I'm like, I want you to run Wake Forest campus. I want you to run the other campuses. So there was never really a power dynamic of one person had more responsibility than the other. It was always run like a partnership. I think Matt, because he was a year younger, I didn't see him like that, but he always was like, look at this email, look at this text, like, is this okay, right? Very quickly, or not very quickly, after a couple of years, he realized, like, I'm good, like, he trusts me, because it was more like him trying to prove himself to me, where I was like, I can't do all this job on my own, so I trust you, you go for it. I trust the manager at this campus, like, I can't go to Durham, North Carolina today, so you better do a good job, right? So I never really had the mindset of like being an owner and like having ownership over other people. We have independent campuses that need to get run. We have independent responsibilities. I'm good at some things, he's good at some things. Let's operate, let's come back at the end of the day and let's celebrate the victories.
And that kind of circles back to his leadership. He never talks down at people, right? So it was actually easy for me to feel like a partner well before I even had the paperwork to say I was. Yeah.
Cool, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody else had a hand. Why did you do Shark Tank, and what's your best Shark Tank story you haven't told so far that you can?
Yeah. I mean, why did we do Shark Tank? I mean, it was a childhood dream. I watched Shark Tank as a kid with my family for, 10 years of my life. And then ultimately as well, I think the bet that we made, which has paid off so far, was that before Shark Tank and now, like, we're out there, we're just a sweaty, dirty moving company. Like, it's hard to really differentiate yourself and tell the story and try to make yourself unique and have people listen to us, right? Then you go on national television, you have a platform which everyone can hear this, and we received such an influx of applications from students and also from like professionals that wanted to work for us, but not just like numbers wise, but actually really high quality ones. Because those same, handshake listings that I'm putting on to their OPCD for an internship that said operations logistics position, nobody wanted to apply to that, right? Now it's like, come work for a Mark Cuban-backed Shark Tank company. The caliber of people that wanted to work for us was so increased. And at the end of the day, it's not, like, Matt and I don't move your boxes anymore. So you can like us, but it doesn't mean you're gonna like the service of storage scholars, right? It's the person it's Bob that's in customer service on the phone. It's Noah that's actually showing up at your door, delivering that box and saying hi to you and shaking your hand. So to increase the level of caliber of employee and people that worked with us through a service business, because your business is the people that provide the service, that was the bet we made for Shark Tank, and that's why it paid off.
And Alexis, rock.
I'll tell another story too. So another aspect of when you're on Shark Tank is when the doors open and you walk down the stage, the sharks are on your right-hand side, you step on the carpet, you get on your mark. That's what they call it, the piece of tape there. So oftentimes when you stand on your mark, you actually have to pause and look straight at the sharks for like 3 to 5 minutes, like this. And biggest moment of your life. So you're sweating, your heart's pounding, your face is kind of twitching, trying to keep a smile. And they'll then use those cuts as B-roll throughout the episode. So it might be when somebody goes, Matt, what's your sales for 2020? And he might have answered it, 150,000, right? But when the commercial goes, he like looks like that and the commercial cuts, that's because that was the cut from the beginning of the episode. So we heard that through our producers and we're like, malicious or not, I mean, it's reality TV. And we're like, okay, how can we not do that, right? So it was kind of gamifying the show. So Tommy Bayless, Morissette Boxes, we reached out to him, a local guy in Greensboro. We said, hey, can you manufacture us this like life-size 4x4 box? And we asked the producers, like, can we just plop the box on there, pop out and begin the pitch? And they go, it's a pretty good idea. Yeah, let's do that. So that way we avoided that like opening scene of like getting cut. And at the end of the day too, we ended up becoming like the season 14 teaser. It's like, welcome to season 14. And we popped out of the box. So it paid off.
And they dropped us in the wrong spot. So like we're freaking out, like, you know, nuts to butts in this box, like getting shifted around, being like, stage left, and we're like moving like this, trying not like, and so that was also terrifying. Yeah.
I'm glad the shirts were black.
Yeah, we were sweating really bad, for sure.
In the back.
Were there any habits you guys had in college that helped you manage your time with school and your business?
That's such a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you like my experience, right? So a lot of people, they have priorities in college, right? It's to get good grades, to have a good experience, X, Y, Z, right? So it may be, imagine it's Tuesday night, you have an accounting final at 9 a.m. the next morning. So at 6 p.m., you're like, I'm gonna go to the library, I'm gonna study from 6 to midnight, get up, study from 7 to 9, and go to my exam. But for me and for us, we had multiple priorities, right? It was not only to have a good time in college, you know, be physically fit, run a business, and get good grades. So when that 6 p.m. time came, we would work from 6 to 9 on the business. We'd go get dinner, we'd go work out, and then from 10 to midnight or 10 to 1, we'd actually turn off your phone, like actually put it in your bag, and then throw the bag to the other side of the room. Like, do not have any distractions. And like Matt said, Murphy's Law, like when you have 3 hours to do something, you have 6 hours to do something, you'll figure it out. And you'll learn over time. That first time you study for 3 hours and you may get a B. So, okay, next time I need to like reverse that and give myself more time and do 4 hours or 4.5. Works best for you. But just being true to your word and understanding that if you put yourself in a situation that you need to perform and you give yourself a strict deadline, like you'll get it done, right? And you'll figure it out in the beginning what works best for you, but giving yourself strict deadlines and you'll figure it out.
And transparently, our habits actually weren't super good in college. Like we did a lot of the same college experiences. A lot of people, like we went out plenty of times, like we did all of that. I think the only difference is that when we said to each other, which was like joint accountability, like we're gonna be there at 8, like it was like our relationship and our trust for one another on the line every time. And so I think that joint accountability is helpful. So yeah, I think priorities over habits in college for sure.
You definitely don't need to make a sacrifice. I mean, we were in fraternities, I played club soccer, I was an RA, we ran a business, I was a business school student. Like you can do all the things you wanna do, just making sure that when you make a sacrifice or something, you really figure out what is the opportunity cost of doing something else. So for us, it was running the business. For somebody else, it might be making a new friend or meeting a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? So kind of getting your priorities straight.
And if you have time to party 5 nights a week, like a lot of Wake kids do, you definitely have time to start a business, so.